Does therapy work? Huh. Hi, my name is Susie Porter, and I help women rewrite their life so they can create their happily ever after. Does therapy work? I've thought about that a lot, actually. Or does therapy keep us stuck in our shit? Hmm. I saw my first psychologist when I was 26 years old. I lived in Cleveland, Ohio at the time, and therapy wasn't really on my radar or on my radio back then. It was after years of relationship drama that a couple of my girlfriends who were in therapy said, "Hey, Sue, maybe you should try therapy." So I thought, well, I really didn't have anything to lose. So I was open minded, and thank God, luckily, my first therapist was a good one. I felt safe with her. And the work that we did together helped me to connect the dots and to see the connection between some of my childhood experiences with my relationships with men. And she really helped to uh, talk therapy is great if you're just completely clueless and you don't know what's wrong. If you're a hot mess, start with therapy. um, since that first therapist, I went to a guy who had these really thick glasses, who had a PhD. And I remember I was sitting in the waiting room, and there was a show back in the 70s called Starsky and Hutch. Oh my God, I had a huge crush on Starsky. Black hair, big nose, my type, right? So the door opened, and there was this therapist, and he looked just like Starsky. And I was like, and he's like, Helen, and he called some other name. So I was so disappointed, and I waited and waited, and then the door opens, and there's a guy who looks kind of like Beaker from the Muppets. Big, thick glasses. He had a limp, skinny, pale, and yet I got very attached to him and cried my eyes out when I had to leave him. So therapy's powerful, I will say that. And then I moved to Los Angeles. I had to say goodbye to my pop bottle glasses therapist, and my next therapist, her name was Sherry, and she was very sort of glamorous and sophisticated. It was in Burbank. And then from there, I saw another woman who was a little older and who was very calm. And all of these therapists helped me and helped me as much as I could be helped at those times in my life. But at the end of our time together, there was always a pretty big piece missing. I was still left with this daddy shaped hole in my heart, that wound, or whatever you want to call those parts of me that just didn't work, didn't weren't happy, didn't feel good. So since moving to LA 30 years ago, I've done so many things to help. I did rebirthing. Rebirthing is where when I did it, you lay on the ground and just breathe in and out for an hour. Consistently for an entire hour. I felt like my head was going to explode, but it was incredible. I was on a natural high for about 3 days. Recently, a couple weeks ago, I did somatic breath healing, which was similar to rebirthing, only I liked the process a lot more. I highly recommend it. Um, I studied A Course in Miracles, and I'm just finishing up the 365 lessons in the workbook for a second time. I've done a Native American sweat lodge. I've had my past lives revealed to me by a shaman. I used to have a guru who worked with my energy. I've practiced all kinds of meditation using a mantra, Dr. Joe Dispenza, focusing on my breath. I've read books by Dr. David Hawkins, Power versus Force and Letting Go. Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth, changed my life. And Dr. Elaine Aron's book, The Highly Sensitive Person. If you think there's something wrong with you and you don't know what, I recommend that book, The Highly Sensitive Person. Or if you have a kid, that's what reading The Highly Sensitive Child, because of my son is an HSP, highly sensitive person. I read The Highly Sensitive Child, and then I was like, oh my God, I'm an HSP. Then I read The Highly Sensitive Adult, and everything makes sense. But actually, that book is so helpful. Even if you're not a highly sensitive person, read that book, because then you'll be able to see who in your life is. And especially if you're a teacher or a parent, it's extremely helpful to help you understand people. Since my days of therapy, I've worked with life coaches, many different life coaches, and I've gotten certified in human design, which also helped me very much. All this is to say that I've done a lot to heal, a lot. It's been kind of like my part-time job, almost my full-time job, actually. And I keep doing this work every day. And I will probably always be working on my mental and emotional well-being. What works for me mostly is that I have faith, and I always have. Well, I lost it for a couple days a few years ago, but besides that, I've always had faith, and that faith kept me persevering and gave me the strength to face my own shit. Carl Jung, who's my favorite teacher of psychology, uh, his belief is that we have to integrate our shadow self. And that idea feels so important to me and is so true. Denial doesn't work. Toxic positivity, it can't work. What is within will come out, right? I also love the work of Dr. Gabor Mate, who agrees that we need to face our trauma in order to heal it. There's wonderful work being done in the world of psychotherapy and spiritual healing, and also plant medicines like mushrooms, ayahuasca, toad medicine. I think it all can help. But an important thing to keep in mind is that as long as we're here on this earth, as long as we're wearing this costume called human being, we will always be a work in progress. Does therapy work? It can. A lot depends on who your therapist is and if it's a good fit for you. If we want to heal, we have to be willing to hear what A Course in Miracles calls the dirge we sing and question its validity. To hear is the first step in recovery. To question it must then become our choice, the Course in Miracles says. So our healing is in our hands, regardless of the violence or pain or trauma that was perpetrated upon us. Even if many of us were helpless, vulnerable children, when we become adults, certainly in our 20s or 30s or 40s or 50s, at some point, we must take 100% responsibility for our own healing. So if that's in seeing a therapist or in spiritual practice or in going to church or in whatever heals our souls, it's 100% up to us to see our own shadow, to do our own inner work. So does therapy work? It can. Everything can work. What do they say in AA? It works if you work it. So, and I think that applies to everything. I don't think that if we really do have free will, and that's a very ancient philosophical debate, are we predetermined or do we have free will? If we do have free will, we have to choose to want to heal. And we might be stuck unconsciously clinging to our wound and our pain, and that will stop us from healing. So you can have all the therapy in the world, but if you have this unconscious belief that you're not safe. So I don't want this to sound overwhelming. I want this to be encouraging. Does therapy work? Yes. Does spiritual practice work? Yes. Does exercise and nutrition work? Yes. Can ayahuasca and psychotherapeutic drugs work? Plant medicine? Yes. Does meditation work? Yes. All of it can work. It's up to us when we decide and we realize that our healing is in our hands and that we're 100% responsible for that healing. And then we start on that path, then we will heal. Ask and you shall receive, seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be opened unto you. But you have to ask, seek and knock. And I think it's pretty clever that ask, seek and knock spells out ask, 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 seek, knock. Choose, right? Choose to heal, and you will heal. I don't know how long it'll take. I don't know how hard it will be, but it is possible and it is available to you. I promise. God bless you. Much love, healing, peace to you.